This is what it is.
Emergency 911. Help me, my brother's dead. He killed himself.
But this is what it should be.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Come back, it's raining. What are you doing in the puddle? You are so adorable and they're going to grow up, these kids.
This Friday at 3 p.m., we explore the difficult reality of child suicide. We are women. We are brave, strong, capable, unique. We are women to women.
Good afternoon, South Africa. Last Friday of the month of June, and we are together. Actually, we are together every Friday at 3 p.m. with another woman-to-woman show. Today, the mood of our program is a little bit more serious. We decided to take the whole program to address one topic. It was common to hear, but not acceptable: suicide among adults. Then it turned to teenagers. However, now we have been questioning what are the reasons of suicide among children. And the stats, they prove how it is growing among us in every society. So stay tuned because we are going to talk about the signs, the risk factor, and we are going to have real cases to help you, parents, guardians, educators, to deal with this matter. And also hoping that we are going to bring clarity to many children, to teens and youth who are watching this program. First, we have the question why this is happening. And looking at the stats, we noticed that there was a major increase from 2007 to 2017. It increased on 56% in terms of cases. So before, we would have 6.8 deaths in each 100,000, and now it is on 10.6. It shocks me to hear about the stories. It shocks me to deal with the cases in daily basis. And believe me, this year we had so many cases that this is the reason why we have reserved this afternoon to talk about it. We also considered what is aggravating the situations. And you pick up that social media and smartphones are one of the contributing factors.
So we have, I'd like to say, a digital generation that we're living in. Everything is done on smart devices. And one of the, I think, triggers of it as well has become now these smartphones or devices that the kids have. Today we see kids as young as 3 years old having an iPad. And sometimes the mom even has a personal cell phone for that child in cases where they co-parent. And now we find children no longer interacting with other children, but rather now being more on their smartphones and building relationships with people via the, I think, virtual world. And from that, that's when now these triggers come in, where they are bullied, where they have people now intervening, coming into their personal lives because of sometimes even the programs and the apps they participate in, where you post a video of yourself dancing, doing something, and they don't realize that now they are opening themselves up to other people's opinions on them. So you'll find people that will say whatever they want to say. They're naysayers, and they will make fun of that child, of the way they look or what they're posting, and that causes depression among the kids. And that now becomes an issue because parents don't really know sometimes what those kids are doing on those apps or on those smartphones. And they'll find conversations among their peers who sometimes even taunt them to say, oh, you do this, just end your life, like kill yourself. Like, why don't you just do something? And with the virtual world, they're also able to access methods and ways on how to execute it. And that is becoming a big thing because when parents don't realize this, that a child from the age of 4 to 7, that is actually a chance where in their brain they get a development on how to deal with other peers. So now with us, I think even the lockdown maybe it helped as well because everybody was on their own, like quarantined and all of that. Then now these kids are not having access to their peers. So this child is unable to now deal with people because when you think of a 4-year-old, they play together. One will pull the other one's hair, something will happen, and they'll be sat down and there'll be a conversation. Why did you do that to so-and-so? Don't do that again, apologize. But if we don't give them that by having these devices and they always on them, that child, when she gets to school and now she is being bullied, she actually doesn't know that the bully has an issue on their own that they're trying to deal with, and they're just projecting their hurt on them. But then now they take it personal and believe everything that that person is saying to them. And that has actually become something very contributing. They also spend hours on end on these devices, which leads them to having sleep deprivation. A lot of them are not sleeping. And sadly, parents, because they try to give the kids what they didn't have. So the child is in her own room. No one knows that this child is still on the internet. No one knows that the child is still online. And you'll ask yourself, what is a 8-year-old or a 9-year-old still doing on the internet at 12 p.m.? Obviously, it's nothing good. Whatever they're looking at, whatever they're reading, is not something that is actually educational or good for them, because if it was, they would do it out in the open. So that's becoming something that we're seeing increasing it.
We have already found that another thing that is contributing to that reality are the shows, isn't that?
We have a lot of shows on Netflix, on TV that I wouldn't say that the aim would be to cause the children to harm themselves, but how the script is written because of audience ratings, they want views, they want a lot of people to talk about it, they want it to be as controversial as possible. So sometimes writers and directors, they don't think as far as how will it affect the children or the people watching, because something happens with the brain where it cannot differentiate reality and TV. So we have these shows that a lot of kids, they love, and because they love the shows, they love the celebrities
And
that are in
cartoons
them.
as well.
A lot of cartoons as well. So they love those celebrities, they love those characters. And when that character is going through a certain problem in the family, very similar to her problem that she is facing, maybe at school or in the family, and then the character decides to take their own life, then in their mind, it's like, she's gone. I have no one else to relate to. They cannot differentiate that. That is a character that person is playing, and that is not reality. In South Africa, we don't have it that much, but we did have one celebrity who took his own life. But I know for a fact that in countries like South Korea, and now we are having this South Korean K-pop boom that is even here in South Africa, where everyone is talking about K-pop this, K-pop that. I know for a fact that a lot of these celebrities, they suffer from depression, they suffer from bullying, social media, they suffer from a lot of things. And they have, the fans have these groups where they sort of like dictate their lives, and if they do something that does not please the fans, then the fans will be on them. And on top of the fact that they are depressed, the comments of the fans, some of them even go as far as, kill yourself, we don't want you here. But then we have some diehard fans that when that celebrity kills themselves, then they also see that, oh, my favorite celebrity is gone and I have nothing else to live for. Then they kill themselves as well. So it is very important for us to know what kind of shows that the kids are watching, and to be able to understand what message is it passing. As I said, I don't think that it's the intention of the writers and the creators to have people take their own lives, but with the child mental state, how they've developed so far, it will be hard to differentiate that this person is still alive but the character is gone. So we need to check that as well.
The reason why we also elected to do this program, because we came across news from one neighbor country of an 11-year-old who heard from his mother that since he came about, he had destroyed the mother's life. So on the mother's birthday, this child decided to kill himself. And he did so, and he left a message. Mom, I wanted to give to you the best gift for your birthday. I will be no more. You don't need to worry with me anymore. And we have this reality inside our churches. We're coming across these examples. Silmara, you had done a research about how to teach kids or how to prevent suicide. Share with us the reality, the shocking reality that you found nothing.
Yeah, sad enough, it's something common now to see the kids going through that. And when you go to try to find, because we wanted to speak with the child in their language, to bring this awareness to them, how dangerous, how it should not be done. And you don't find anything. You find how they should do that. So they come with that story. They are too young for us to talk about it.
Now, let me understand. So you found a lot of videos that would teach the kids how to commit suicide.
Yes, cartoons, videos, and the child who is doing that in that picture, in that cartoon, is smiling, has the bright eyes, and it's so like it's cool for what the image that they show. It should be done like this, and the child gets confused because they see that little character there that they follow. And interesting is that, Miss Marsha, we understand the parents, they become very busy. Most of them, they are not really having time to sit down with their children and to watch at least one cartoon, to see what is playing in that TV. And it's common, you go to the shopping malls and the child starts to cry and the mom take the phone, give to the child. They learn, it's amazing how they 1 year old, they know already the finger, how to use the cell phone, the tablet. And the parents, they are not understanding that internet is teaching their children how to commit suicide.
But you didn't get a video, a tutorial that would be at the language of the child to prevent suicide.
No, the only thing they say, they are too young for you to talk about it. But it's, how come? They are too young for us to talk to them. Don't do that. But they are not too young to watch a cartoon or to see a picture that how that cartoon or that child should do that. So it's an open eyes for us, because we need to break this ice that they are too young, they don't understand, because we have a lot of memories about our childhood. 2 years old, 3 years old, 4, we remember quite a lot of things.
Because in our time, cartoons were meant to educate us. We would have the baby languages, but cartoons, they would to present in proper English or proper language, because it was a way of educating a child. Now, cartoons are becoming weapons to lead children to misbehave.
They're becoming dangerous.
And it's very sad because sometimes it's so well hidden. It's so well hidden that it's very hard to spot. But if the child is fixated and is there, that the brain of a child absorbs everything. So they absorb everything, and it's easy for the parents to miss because it's the most popular cartoon. So it's very easy to miss. But when the child is so fixated and takes in every word that cartoon says, then she now understands that, okay, this is what I have to do because the cartoon is teaching me. My mom doesn't have time to sit down with me and teach me what I should do, but the cartoon is telling me what to do. And this is the most favorite cartoons. All of my friends are talking about it, so it means it's the right way.
Suicide is nowadays the third leading cause to death among children from 15 to 19 years old. And in South Africa, that's related to suicide. And the ER get 75% of cases of intent related to suicide. And I'm talking about of children from 10 to 14 years old. Moms, educators, friends, and siblings. This program is a wake-up call for all of us. We're still going to talk about signs and risk factors. But today I have here with us Melissa. You saw her ago participating of our program of the youth, and we decided to bring her back to explore more what she had been through. Melissa, greet them first, please.
Hi, everyone.
Melissa, today I know we should not ask a woman the age, but you're not yet grown up. You should not be embarrassed. I mean, fully grown up adult. How old are you?
I'm 22.
22. Just to alarm and alert you, talk about when you first had the thought of harming yourself. How old were you?
So I was around the age of 9 because I started primary school very early.
So 9, being 22 today, we are talking about 13 years ago. You have already been to that situation. So when we talk about the subject, many parents say, oh, they are children. It's just imaginary. But here I have Melissa, who's going to share in details what she's been through, her feelings, her thoughts, to bring you to the mindset of a child. So if it happened with her 13 years ago, how much more it's happening with our kids, the ones who are close to us, and we have no ideas, the kind of thoughts they are having. Melissa, tell us how it all started.
Um, as far as I can recall, it was around grade 3 where we had like a situation that happened to me, which everyone forced me in my class to confess something, to be like, yes, this happened to me, but it actually didn't happen. So it was that thing of no matter how much I try to voice out my opinion, because everyone's like, no, we know you're a quiet child. We know you're sweet. You wouldn't say that this actually happened. Just say it. We'll all protect you. We'll all be by your side. So it was this thing of, but I'm being honest. Why is no one taking me seriously? I understand. For me, it was, okay, I get if my mom doesn't get me, but you're the same age as me. You're supposed to understand that it did not happen. And then the betrayal of a friend saying, yes, it happened. You don't want to say it. That was like, but why? Why am I being forced to say something that did not happen? And then that whole thing of it built up to no matter what I say, no one's really going to take me seriously. Like no one's going to believe me. So things escalated where people would say things to me at school. In the flat we used to live in, it was a thing of because of my skin color, I was made fun of. They're like I was very dark. So they're like, no, you're very dark skinned. You don't show in photos when people take pictures with you and all
The
of
mockery.
that. Yes, the mockery. And it just continued at school. Wouldn't even try my best because it was the thing of, but you're quiet, you're supposed to be smart. No, that whole thing of always people telling me how I should be. So getting home was me and my mom wouldn't get along. So it was a thing of, since we didn't get along, we always had this misunderstanding. So I'd be called by names. When family members come over, like this whole thing of they don't realize, but when you actually make fun of a kid, they remember it and become very self-conscious. So for me, I became very self-conscious when they started making fun of my skin color, my nose, my feet, and things like that.
Even family members.
Yes, family members. So when I got to grade 4, because of how I'd see that when someone was beat up at school and things like that, and watching things on TV, I realized people give attention to someone who's hurt. So one day when we were on our way to school in the morning, I had this whole bad tendency. We were all walking with my cousins and my sister, my little sister. By that time, she was still in creche. I think that's preschool. Yeah. And so as we were crossing the road, what happened was my sister, what is this? We were all just crossing. So I didn't care at that moment. I was like, even if this taxi hits me, I won't have to go to school. I'll just disappear.
That you recall were the first thoughts you had
Yeah.
towards suicide.
Yes.
You felt yourself in the middle of the street and you thought, if the taxi hits me, favor.
Yes.
And then?
And then, unfortunately, but likely it didn't hit me. It almost hit my sister. And my sister fell a bit far, but it didn't actually touch her. But she fell a bit far. And then that's when my mom had to be called to come through because she was on her way to work. And then that's where she came through. And I felt bad because I was like, I wanted this to happen to me, but it ended up happening to my little sister. So I was like, you know what? Look, I'm causing more problems now. Instead of things happening to me, now I'm causing pain to other people. And then it just went on. So being made like mockery of in the building and being this one after school, this other kid beat me up. And I was like, but what did I do? I thought we're just playing around. So now you don't have to call people to hold me down and you have to kick me and things like that. So it was a thing of things just every time something happened, even at home, one little word, everything became very sensitive to me. So if you told me something, I take it in seriously. If you didn't realize that what you're saying or doing, I took it in very seriously. So that's when I remember I was around grade 7 when we went to the rooftop And then that's when I looked down. I was like the 14th floor. And I'm like, you know, if I can just throw, because I remember now, I once heard my mom talking about before she came to the church, how when my dad left, she wanted to, she was walking in the streets and she was holding me and my sister. And she wanted to throw us also all together in front of a castle.
So you heard from your mom?
Yes. So it was that thing of, I once heard my mom talking about it, now that I remember. And I remember looking down and be like, why don't I also do the same? Like, why don't I just disappear? Because I feel like no one gets me. For me, it was no one gets me. No one sees. To them, I'm the well-behaved child. To them, I'm forced to smile because I'm the older daughter. So I'm the eldest. So I'm like supposed to be well-behaved. Everything. I can't complain about anything. So I couldn't go and voice out. And even if I tried speaking to my cousin, it was that thing of, but you know how your mom is. Or, no, you being like this, it's part of being a Black kid and all of that. So it
was bringing on a stigma on you. Instead of diffusing the problem, it was reinforcing the misperception you had, the frustration you had. Did you start showing signs of depression?
I did.
How was your behavior at home?
I was the type of kid, I was really good at pretending that I would say. I was really good. I would smile. Whenever you asked me anything, it was a thing of, I'm fine. I'd never tell you any problems I was going through. So I got to a point of, I don't want you to worry about me. And it was that thing of, there's some days where I would go to extreme of talking back to my mom. So when something happened, I just lash out at her. Because it was for me, she didn't feel what I was going through that moment. Why isn't she seeing? She's supposed to be my mom. I remember I even had, I believed for a while that I was actually adopted. I was like, there's no way I'm from this family. They just adopted me. And from the movies you watch, you're like, no, this kid was adopted. And then the actual parents came through, saved them from this whole home where they're not safe. I thought that was my story also. I'd be like, so I'd leave hoping, waiting for my real parents to come through and be like, they're taking me away and I'm going to be somewhere where those kids I'd see at school being loved and things like that. That's what I would expect also.
Did you ever talk to your mom about that?
In primary, I remember I asked her once, because this was when I came from school. No, it wasn't primary, actually, it was in high school. I came from school, and as I was about to walk in, because we used to live with my cousins also, I heard them laughing. And then when I walked in, that's when everyone just kept quiet and it was sour. And then that's when I asked my mom, why is it when I walk in, you get angry? What did I do? Because I was always there on time. I made sure she never had to shout at me about, why have you lost this? Why are you failing at school? I made sure to never give her a complaint. So she never had to worry. She never had to be called at school for anything. So I was like, but why is this? Why do you get angry? And my thought process during that time was, because I didn't grow up with my dad, it was a thing of, most people said I looked like my dad growing up. So I was like, because my mom and dad never got along, because I heard from my cousins growing up, so that means that she doesn't like me because of my dad. So whatever my dad did to her, whenever she sees me, she sees him. So it was that result of it.
And you never spoke to her about this?
No, I only asked her that day and then I never spoke to her about it.
How many attempts?
Okay, it was the taxi situation and the rooftop. Then when I got to high school, that I remember because that's when I had to change from one school to another. Boarding school was the intense, because I went from a school where I never used to study to now being sponsored to a private school, semi-private school, where I'm actually forced to give my best. There was a very academic school. So it was a thing of, I failed terribly. I remember it was so bad. My sponsor once called me, sat me down and was like, what am I paying for? Why are you not talking to us? What's going on? What's that whole thing? And the fact that no one at home actually bothered to sit down and be like, but why is this? Are you struggling? What are you facing anxiety? What is it? To sit down and understand. For everyone was, you better make it. Why are you not serious about school? Why do you not understand the opportunity you're being given right now? So it was that whole expectation being pushed down again, that I came to a point where I remember once we had an argument in the evening with my mom, and then I had to go do the dishes. So as I was standing and doing the dishes, I looked at a knife. We had this really long knife. And I was like, if I could just stab myself, like this would be done. I wouldn't have to explain myself to anyone. No one would have expectations. No one would be angry. We'll all be fine. I'd just be gone. Then that's when my little sister walked in, and then I just stopped. Couldn't do it.
So the thoughts were in your mind constantly.
Yes.
You would not have peace.
No.
When you were in the same private school, did you think about talking to one of the social workers or one of the teachers?
I never, no. For me, it was no one was really going to understand what I'm going through. For me, it was you just complaining. You need to deal with it, find a way. You're supposed to be the older one. You're supposed to be the more responsible one. You're supposed to be there. So you can't be always crying about such small things. You're being too sensitive. You're being too emotional. That was how I thought. And then that's where I try to voice out my opinion to my friends. I'm like, this is what's going on at home and things like that. But then for them, it was like, no, Melissa, the thing is you're allowing your mom. I remember my friends would be like, you're allowing your mom to walk all over you. That's why you're like this. You're supposed to be, what is this? You're supposed to be toughen up. You're supposed to be one of those rebel kids. Then your mom would not be like this on you. So that was the advice I was given. They're like, no, you should try drinking, smoking. You'll see your mom would appreciate how you were before, because you just...
Did you try that?
No. Yeah, I really was never interested.
But were you craving the attention of your mom?
I was. That's one big thing I remember. It was just that. I was like, I'm not asking for anything. I don't need you to buy me anything. I don't need anything fancy. I just need you to be there to understand that I'm this type of a kid and I'm going through this.
Isn't shocking that maybe your kid, that child that we see every day in our Sunday school, in our street, our neighbor, that looks like to be intelligent, smart, happy, putting a fake smile, is considering to kill herself. Thanks God, Melissa didn't go to the end. But how many? How many have done that? Melissa, do you know of anyone whom you studied with, or in the family, or in the neighborhood, that committed suicide?
I don't know anyone else per se, but around especially when I got to varsity, that's where I saw most cases around buildings I stayed at and students that were actually in my class. That's where I heard a lot of stories about that.
And most of the stories started when they were still very young.
Yes.
Not necessarily when they reached uni.
No, not even. And now thinking about it with all the cases that happened, I remember, because you were talking about social media, Miss Precious, we had a mini matric dance, which was in grade 10 when we went to camp. And everyone was excited, the whole dress up and everything. I was forced by a certain best friend of mine back in high school to wear a certain dress. Because I already wasn't confident with myself, didn't like my skin and all of that. I wore it just to please her, so that she could be like, no, the compliments and just having a friend near you.
Craving for attention.
Yes. So what happened was we went, and then they took a few pictures, and already I wasn't comfortable. Now, these pictures were taken. I didn't want them to be taken, so I'd asked people to delete them. And then it went on to when we came back from the camp, that's where the pictures were posted. Because we went to a school where everyone had to use iPads. So obviously everyone had Facebook, everyone had access to social media. So now one of the girls in the boarding house took that picture and posted it on Facebook. And I remember when we came back, everyone was making fun of it, like the other grades above, grade 11s and 12s. And it was that thing of, but why are you doing this? What did I ever do to you? And whenever I asked her, because we're in the same dormitory, like, please take it down, she wouldn't. So it became more of a joke and everything, to the extent that I had to go on Facebook and actually report the picture and for it to be taken down.
How old were you?
This was in grade 10, so I was like...
You started very young?
So wait, grade 12 was 17, 16, 15.
15 years old. To help you understand what is happening around, we invited a friend of us, Beverly, who is a psychologist, to speak about her experience and her daily work with kids who are attempting suicide. Let us hear what she has to say.
Hello, my name is Beverly Siabi, and I am a research psychologist. I am here to speak about suicide in children. Suicide among children has become an alarming issue worldwide, with research indicating an increased rate in children as young as 8 years attempting suicide. Children find it hard to express their thoughts and emotions. They fail to verbalize what and how they feel, which makes suicidal behavior in children a bit complicated. We need to take into consideration that a child's perspective of reality is different from an adult perspective of reality, but also understanding that children can also suffer from mental health issues. Suicidal behavior in children is impulsive and associated with confusion, anger, hopelessness, helplessness, and hyperactivity, and so forth. There are warning signs in which parents, teachers, and caregivers can be on the lookout for. Number one, behavioral changes. Children with suicidal ideations start having psychosomatic symptoms such as stomach aches, pains of which they cannot explain. Their school format. There's a decline in the quality of their schoolwork and their marks start dropping. They also have this preoccupation with death. So they start researching on death and asking questions surrounding death as a whole. Often when I psychoeducate parents with suicidal children is that they should have an open communication. Children find it hard to speak about topics that society deems as embarrassing. Often topics such as cyberbullying, traditional bullying is often avoided. But if a parent is able to hold a space for the child so that the child can vent out, the child is therefore able to manage her own emotions. Secondly, have a secure attachment style. Children whose parents are emotionally involved are able to regulate their own emotions. Thirdly, have a non-judgmental environment in the house whereby a child may feel safe to speak about any intimate experiences, and also where even if the outside world is unfriendly to the child may know that they have a safety net at home. And in conclusion, any behavior that is learned can be unlearned. Any adverse coping skills that children learn, they can be unlearned through behavioral modification. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beverly, for participating of the program with us, and I'm sure you have enlightened many parents and educators out there. You have a question for her.
Yes, I wanted to know, as young as you were, how did you know what to do? Because you wanted to end your life, but how did you know that if I did this, my life would end?
Obviously, from watching TV shows like horror, you see people dying and things like that. That kind of like gives you an idea. It's like, oh, this is how people die and all of that. But it was mostly a situation of hurting. I just wanted to be hurt in some way where I could just disappear and just move from feeling that pain and focus on something else.
I was thinking when a child is in a welcome environment, she bonds that trust, then she's able to start giving more signs. We see normally when they go to social works, they draw, they leave that child comfortable And normally the mothers, they when they are in the house shame because they are busy schedule, they have very short time with the kids. They're too busy. And it's that thing we were talking about. Show the picture, the drawing. It's beautiful, but you didn't even check what is in there. Your child comes back, Mom, this happening at school. Can't you see that I'm cooking? And you just shut down. You brush off that child. So they perceive, I can't talk much because they will not understand. I'm not sure if that's what you were.
Yeah, it was because I had this tendency of, because I couldn't draw. So I had this tendency of, behind my books, I would write everything. So I hate myself. Why are you like this? So I remember I had a whole page.
What were some of the things you wrote down?
The biggest one was I hate myself, and was like, why couldn't you be better? Why are you like this? Why can't you think like this?
Your mom never picked any of those writings?
No, she never did. And I remember the one time I was taken to a psychiatrist by the school because it got really bad in matric, where the school was really worried. So they took me to a school psychiatrist. And even though I was taken to a school psychiatrist and I had the whole drawing session and all of that, I thought, okay, maybe if I talk to someone now, open up, something might change. And then I remember the feedback came, and then my mom, when I got home, my mom's like, what did you do at school? I'm like, what's going on? And then she's like,
instead
no.
of empathizing with your situation, you felt you were criticized again.
It was a thing.
Or you disappointed her.
It wasn't a thing of, she didn't know at that time, actually, that I realized. It was a thing of, she just heard my name. First thing that came to her mind is she did something wrong at school. So she didn't even listen to the psychiatrist and be like, no, Melissa came through and we're talking to her and all of that. Because I didn't even bother telling her. I'm like, they're going to give the feedback back to my sponsor. They went and talk to my mom about it. So it was that thing of, at that moment, I don't think she paid attention to see as, oh, wait, they're actually talking about, her mental health and all of that.
My question is, weren't you afraid of death, the actual idea of dying?
I was. I really was. Because growing up in the church from Sunday school, you were taught if you die.
Just let me make a break here. That is the point I want you to understand. Because maybe you think, but my kids are in school. Were you in school? I mean, in the church.
Yes, I was in the church.
When I meant school, it's Sunday school. Were you in the church?
Yes, I was in the Sunday school.
You attended CBC?
Yes.
And that was not enough.
She was my Sunday school teacher.
Her Sunday school teacher, because that's how maybe
You're getting old.
Yeah. So that's why I'm posing that question, because as she was describing everything, she always seemed like that reliable child to everybody. Like she was always there, like not entirely happy, but then she looked okay. Like the family was okay. So that's why I'm asking, because in the Sunday school, it's not, I think it's what parents need to know as well, that there's only so much that we can do as external forces for the kids, because that's why I'm asking, weren't you afraid? Because it's something that we address it with them, even when we sit down and counsel them, or even informal chats with them, because it does come up. And nowadays, it's something that comes up quite often, where that's the question, like, but what if I commit suicide and right before I die, I ask God for forgiveness? Will I go to heaven?
Look at the extent of that question.
That's actually what I think. I'm like, we told that God forgives you. In the last moment, people, what is this? If they repent, they go to heaven. So I'm like, in the last second, then I know I'll have a chance to get there. But still, I was scared because of like, you don't have the time to, repent and all of that.
I want also to invite you to watch this video. Edilaine is a pastor's wife today from Brazil. She couldn't be physically with us here, but she recorded what happened to her. She started harming herself at the age of 11 and she tried suicide at 12. I'm not going to ask her how old she is, but you clearly can say that we're talking about more than 20 years ago, and the thought was already there.
My name is Edilaine Lima, and when I think about my childhood, the picture that comes to my mind is of a very sad and isolated child. My father rejected that pregnancy, and also my grandfather had the same feeling towards me, the same feeling of rejection. My mother, while I was just 2 years old, she left me behind as well for a man that decided to marry her. I was taken care by my grandmother. But I do remember that my grandfather and my grandmother, they were a very tough people. They didn't know how to express love, any kind of affection. So I was it's like I grew up alone by myself. I didn't know how it was. I was transferred from my mother's, from my grandmother's house to my auntie because she was already 7 years married and she didn't have any child, and that was her dream. And arriving there is like I had the greatest opportunity ever to finally know what love or affection was. Because the way she was taking care of me, even the way she was expressing about love and hugging, and actually that was my first time to receive a hug. And I said to myself, no, now I think things will work, because only rejection and sadness was found in me, only voidness. But unfortunately, there in her house, I was about to have the worst experience ever in my life, because her husband tried many times of abusing me. So at night was the worst moments of my life, because every time I fall to sleep, he would come to touch my body. And every morning it was like, I didn't know what was happening, because I would find my clothes dirty, and just 11 years old, I didn't know what it was, what was happening. And if rejection wasn't enough, plus bills. So all this is like, yeah, that's it. I was born to suffer. I was giving signs because I was a very isolated child, very sad. I couldn't mix with the other kids, but she couldn't see. Even to eat, I was eating much less than when she could see, but she, in her mind, I was just in his house. Is when she decided to give me back to my grandmother's house. And when it happened, it's like a heavy load was removed from my shoulders, because I was kind of free from that man, from that abusing situation. But finding myself in that situation, voidness, so much sadness, there was kind of a hole inside of me. And the only thing I wanted, it was like to remove that pain away. And just came an idea from within. No, if you kill yourself, then all these problems, will be solved. And I just said, yeah, that's it. So this is the solution. And I used to hear my grandmother saying, oh, those things here, they are poison, you cannot come close, those things here. So I grew up actually hearing from her that. And then it immediately came to my mind, this is the solution. And there was one day when I found all the rejection, all this pain. Even my mother, she doesn't care. I even don't know how she's doing. She never asked about me. All this, yeah, that's it. That's enough. And was that day I decided to take all those poisonous stuffs, and I really drank them. And I can even say that God had already a plan for my life, because after drinking, nothing happened. I went to sleep, and the following day I just woke up. started like approaching me, my friends, even the neighborhood, and the best friend that I had. And she was the one who started introducing to me the addictions, to smoke, to drink. And funny enough, I was just 12 years old. The sadness was so profound, and I was giving signs, but no one around me would see that I was a very depressed child. It was when, around my 17 years old, I was used every morning to tune in a radio station. And I really stopped on a radio that really called my attention because the music was really nice. But right after that music, suddenly comes someone that today I know it was a pastor. And suddenly he started to say, who said you were born to suffer? Who said you were a mistake? And who worthy to taste happiness? Hey, I'm talking to you. Then suddenly I stopped and I said, no, I'm really getting crazy now because the radio is talking to me. I was so thirsty, so void that any option that I would see in front of me, I would grab the opportunity. And I was so boldly say, if you come to this place here, your future would change. And I really embraced that opportunity because so far, all those 17 years that had passed, I never heard someone saying that I would be something or that I was worthy of something. And I really grabbed that opportunity and I found the place. After being there for a while, I would see that while I was in the church, I was okay, I was fine. But when going out of that environment, I would see that something was missing inside. And I was listening a lot about the pastor say, if you do not have the Holy Spirit, you'll never be complete. And I said, this is what is missing. And I do remember that a week before, I decided to make a very special purpose of letting go all those traumas of the past, everything that was still holding me back. And I decided to sacrifice all the friendships, all those addictions, thoughts, whatever. I was really decided to change, come to exchange that past to an amazing future that man was always speaking from the altar. I accepted the challenge. And right after 1 week, and the day that we gathered to seek the Holy Spirit, that was the day. That day I received the best father ever because I knew from that second I had what love, what really meant, what really means. And from that day on, my life changed completely from water to wine because all those feelings of voidness, it was all removed. So it's like if I was in the church, if I was in any other place, I was the same person. Today, I take people, I help people from there. Today, I'm part of a great group that we have in the church, that we help girls that are facing the same situation, the same problem that I was facing before. He's really, really great and amazing, our God is.
We can only give thanks for your life, Edilaine, for the life of Melissa, and we hope that through this show today, we are going to be able to help many young ladies, many young boys who are in the path of bringing their lives to an end at very young age. I wanted to speak a little bit about the signs. And I'm going to read, pardon me, because I will not be able to memorize all that. Melissa, you're going to pick here and talk about, from these signs, what you displayed and maybe no one noticed. That's why the program today, it's really a wake-up call for the adults. we have a responsibility upon these children. We need to help them. But how? If we are not able to read the signs. A child very rarely will come to you and say what she's thinking or feeling. She can't make sense, but she will always give signs that something is wrong. So let us go through the list, and you pay attention and you're going to pick up the ones that you displayed. It starts with aggressive or hostile behavior, anxiety or restlessness. Restlessness, you know, a child that is too active, that cannot stay still for a minute. A change in personality, declining interest in friends, activities, hobbies that were of interest before. Expressions of hopelessness about the future, like, you won't have to worry about me anymore. Feelings of worthlessness, shame, guilt, or self-hatred. Frequent statements or social media posts about self-harm or suicide, like, I wish I were dead. Giving away things of importance. Neglecting personal appearance or grooming. Preoccupation with death in conversation, writing, or drawing. Kids express themselves a lot in what they write, and this one, I can already say, Melissa had the signs. She would write all over her book, self-hatred, but also younger children. The pictures speak louder. The images tell you a whole story. But as Silmara said, parents are busy. Oh, it's beautiful, my child, but you don't realize what is in there. You don't ask the child to walk you through that picture, to show to you what she meant. And there is already a sign of what is in her mind. Reckless or risk-taking behavior, like substance abuse, reckless driving, reckless walking on the streets, winning a taxi to run over her, or sexual promiscuity, running away from home, sleep, appetite, or energy changes, withdraw from family and friends. I spotted one or two that were the signs. What else?
The anxiety, the last one you mentioned about withdrawal from family. So I think still, I would really stay away from my family because it's like, they're going to say something negative again about me. I don't think I have what it takes to take it again today. Also, another thing would be the tendency, either not watching something, but it was the singing of songs. So there's this one specific song. This was, I think, later on in high school. It was called The Hanging Tree. So it talked about suicide. So for me, I'd sing that song.
We forgot to mention about that because today the number of songs and celebrities who sing those songs that committed suicide. So it was The Hanging Tree.
Yes, it was called The Hanging Tree. And for me, I would think about it and be like, if I could find a tree, obviously here in Joburg, there's a lot of buildings, so there's no tree around. But it was like, if I could find a tree also, maybe I could also live up to the song. And then another one was hopelessness for the future. That one was
Would you use those sentences? You don't need to worry.
I would. My little sister would be the biggest witness because I would talk to her more. And it was a thing of, I would be like, very soon, this was in primary, I would already tell my sister, very soon I'll leave this house. No one would have to worry about me. I'll look after myself. I'll make sure, like I had already planned that once I'm done with high school, knowing that university, my thing was move far away from home as you possibly can. Just be away from everyone, from everything. So I always had that thing of, I need to work hard and make it in school so that I could leave and not be anywhere home.
Would you look after your appearance?
I wouldn't care. For me, it was already everyone. I remember this one guy in primary school told me I was ugly. So for me, I was like, I'm already ugly. What is this ugly? My mom couldn't afford much. So it's like, why should I bother?
That was your feeling.
Yeah.
Let us talk a little bit about songs. because I know it has been one of the reasons, and we missed that in the beginning, that are leading the youth and the young children now to suicide, for the perception that suicide might even be a good thing, might be a moment of peace, of fulfillment. What are the songs that come to your mind?
It's quite actually huge this day in the market.
And Pastor, please, who's always behind the camera, if you remember, help us here.
It's quite big. There's one popular one that everybody like loves right now, and she's all about it. And I remember, I think it was the award season earlier this year. Then one of the reporters asked her, "How do you feel about getting this award?" And she said, "I'm very proud of myself because what I'm writing about and what I'm speaking about is what everybody is going through." So, and I think someone asked, "But aren't you afraid that people might be taking your message?" Because I think there were campaigns, there were protests.
Without talking about the singer or the author, which song?
I think there was one, I forgot what the name is, but I remember the video, the music video was something that was very disturbing. The person was in the car driving towards the sea or lake or river, whatever it is. And as she's singing, the car is actually going in there.
Drowning.
Yeah, drowning the car into it. And she seems happy. And you find so many songs whereby they actually celebrating that. And people say, even if the person later actually does that, people actually award them for that because it means you've gone a step ahead and done that. And it's something that our youth today, again, it's another thing that parents need to watch out for. Some don't write much, but the playlist, they live by that playlist, like on their phone. A day does not go. They have a song that they wake up to. They have a song for everything, when I'm happy, when I'm feeling anxious, when I'm feeling upset, when I'm angry, when I don't want to deal with anybody. And they even take lyrics and put them as their statuses sometimes, which is a sign. And usually if you don't watch out, if you don't ask, what is that? A person can think, oh no, it's just a popular post that they're putting, but it's actually what they're feeling at that moment.
Any song name, Pastor?
The one most precious is called Everything I Wanted.
Everything I Wanted.
Yes, and there is another famous artist whose target market is children. His music videos are sexual content, suicidal, and satanic content. And he pronounced and he said that his content is for children.
So let me repeat what the pastor is saying. There is an artist that works through his videos and songs for the children audience. However, his songs have sexual content and instigate to self-harming and suicide. It's a satanic content. I'm going to check if I am able to post the name here by the end, if I'm not going to break any rules that will bring problems to the church. If not, you're going to find otherwise in our Sunday schools, with the work of PTU and in the work of YPG, we can help you to understand those songs and artists so that you take upon yourself the responsibility over the safety of your children. Of course, as parents, we work hard to provide to them what they need. We work hard to make sure they have food, they can go to good schools. But in this ever-changing world, we need to do more. We need to be part of their lives. Just after Mama Lindy, who is an educator, to also give her view on this matter, working with kids in daily basis, teaching them, we are going to call for our break. And after the break, we are going to talk about risk factors and what can you do? What is your role?
My name is Lima Mawela. I'm currently employed by the Department of Education and Training as an educator. However, some of these learners, they do not reach adulthood because of they commit suicide. Child suicide is when someone inflicts pain on themselves and they later kill themselves. There are so many red flags that indicate that the child is about to commit suicide. When a child is very angry, some children are very sad, some of them, they even contemplate and speak about their own death. So those are red flags that we should always and almost look for. Some of the children, they do not perform well at school because of the academic decline. And some of them, they drop out of school, and others, they even run away from home. So we should always look out for those signs. I've seen 3 out of 4 children who committed suicide because they were rejected by their boyfriends. And the causes were unknown to the parents. Problems of the children, it is an outcry that they are having nowhere or no one to take care of them. Therefore, if we can look into the policies and change the policies as the department, children will be spared, lives will be spared, and policies that are going to teach children to value life, to value themselves, and to respect life. And I thank you.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shichla Ma'alot, Yisa Enai Elechachim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'imcha Hashem, Ose Shamayim Va'aretz, Al Yitel Lamot Chaglecha, Alenu Shomrecha, Hine lo yanu velo yisham, Shomer Israel. Hashem Shomerecha, Hashem Tzilcha, Al Yad Yeminecha. Yom HaShemesh lo yakeka, ve'reach balayla. Hashem yishmocha mikocha, yishmoch et nafshecha. Hashem yishmoch utzetcha uvorecha, me'ata ve'ad olam, me'ata ve'ad olam.
Welcome back to the second part. This song says, Shema Israel, listen. So today we are inviting you to listen. Listen to your kids. Listen to your neighbors. Listen to the kids that they are not yours, but somehow they are on your way. We were just talking about, still on the topic of the songs, and Melissa, you said that in those days, you were listening what kind of song?
The genre was like rock, so your heavy metal. And it was, I remember this one specific one I used to like singing was On a Highway to Hell.
On a Highway to Hell.
Yes. So I remember
very welcoming title.
So I remember I used to really like sing that song. And then there's the other one called We're Not Gonna Take It. And whenever I like felt like I'm done, I can't take this anymore, I used to sing that song.
What kind of reactions would those songs trigger in you?
It was mostly anger. I really angry around everyone around me. And it was just the whole thing of it inclined me more to the thoughts of committing suicide.
I think it's a little bit better to understand when you look at the playlist, because, for example, the parents will know this. If when they would go through a heartbreak, they would listen to heartbreak songs like "Unbreak My Heart" and all those things. When they were happy and in love, they would listen to songs that were happy songs. But when a child is depressed, she will listen to depressing songs.
Just by the title,
Yes.
we could pick up there is something wrong.
Yes. So they need to really pay attention to what their children are listening to. The artists that are writing the songs, they are depressed themselves. So that's how that bleeds into. So imagine if Melissa was a music artist still writing all those things at the back of your notebook and you were singing. How would it affect others? Because that's how you are feeling. That's how you were feeling. That's what you were thinking. And then you put it on a tape for everyone to hear out there. So that's exactly how to test the mental state of the child.
So, risk factors. It starts with if you had any kind of suicide or attempt of suicide in the family, or any kind or any case of depression or mental illness. That's a risk factor. History of physical and emotional abuse. A child will always resort to end that abuse by taking her life. Loss of close family member. Someone in the school who committed suicide. Someone who was very dear to her and suddenly died. Silmara, you had an experience with one child.
Yes, and I need to congratulate the mother because she came to ask for help. Her father just passed, and now how to explain to them how did it happen? For the young one, he went to heaven. And now the child thought, if I kill myself, I go to heaven and I meet my dad there. So that was a shock for the mother, but she was wise in coming quick and tell us, I need help. I don't know how to explain proper to them.
Thanks, God. Congratulations to you, Mom.
Yeah, how all that happened in their language. And it took time. It was almost 2 months that every week we were sitting down with the children. We were talk separated. And there it started the process. And after that, it just came in peace. They understood that is part of life.
And they're no longer talking about suicide.
They no longer talk about it. But it was the quick move of the mother to come and not hide, not trying to or just brush off the kid. No, she came and we managed to help the family with that.
And as Sunday school teachers, CBC teachers, and even PTU counselors, it's one thing that I've noticed a lot that happens, because as I'm speaking to Melissa, I'm thinking, had her mom maybe noticed then, she would have done the same as you speaking of this mom, or if we had more time, like she opened up, we would have been able to actually tackle that problem and work with her to avoid her spending so many years in that state. And today we find the same sadly happening, whereby kids are not that free to speak to us. You sense that there's a lot that this child is going through. There's a lot that they want to say. However, I think maybe the parents sometimes are fearful of what the child will expose and what they will say. And maybe you're not doing it maliciously, but maybe because you also don't know what your child is really going through. They fear that shock of finding out something from someone else coming and saying, look, this is what's happening with your child. So I think a helping factor coming from the parents would be to do what this mom did, like coming and saying, look, I don't know how to deal with this, because parenting, I think, is a very complex thing. As I'm sitting here and I'm listening, I'm thinking in my mind, it takes a lot to be a parent. It takes a lot to be attentive. And they are blessed, those that are in the church. I don't even know our viewers who are not from the Universal Church we offer free counseling, like everywhere with everybody. So they now have this chance of reaching that thing, like that gap that they were unable to. And sometimes kids are even comfortable with a stranger, someone that they know is not going to pick a side, does not know their mom, does not know what they have done as kids, and just sitting down with that stranger and speaking to them, then that person will come as you did, to come form like that middle ground where they are able to understand, and they shouldn't feel bad about it. But we've noticed that that happens sometimes, where the mom sometimes wants to sit in on the counseling, and you sense how uncomfortable.
Yeah, the child will not speak. Would you speak about what you were going through if your mom was
Not
with
even.
you?
I remember the first talking that I made with this family. Then I said, "So, mom, thank you very much. You can go." And she looked at me and said, "So I cannot be?" I said, "No, not now, later." So, but that was the children just became free.
Yeah.
And of course, we were all working together. We are not going to hide and no, we are going to work together.
But we give the
just-
space to the
yes.
child to speak, isn't that?
It's a thing of you fear being criticized, and because you see that parents are like older, so you're like this older parent is going to convince this older person that I'm actually just deceiving them and playing with them. I'm not being serious here. So it's that fear of if they hear, they're just going to be against me, and this person won't believe me because I'm young. So
Other risk factors, just to conclude the part of the topic: previous suicide attempts, threats, bullying, violence from peers, challenges with hard lockdown. Pay attention to their mental state. Bottom line.
Yes, and I think this is the moment where parents, as Precious said, parenting is hard, because now parents, they don't understand. They think that she's going to a good school. She has an iPad, she has a phone, she has me as a mom, she has an iWatch, she has PlayStation, she has food, she has a roof. There are kids out there who don't even have half of what she has. Why isn't she grateful? But the child is suffering inside. Their parents, as we had a show of living vicariously through their children, and it's a lot of pressure on them, that they have to study what they don't want, they have to do what pleases their parents. But at the end of the day, the parents are not listening. They are just listening, but they are not hearing what the child is saying. So the important role of a parent is to hear what is not being said, because there are a lot of things that a child will not say, but it's for the parent to read between the lines. What is she not saying? And that takes a lot. That takes relationship as well.
How to help your child? Be aware. Give them the space and the freedom to talk. If you find that there is a need for counseling, this is why we have our projects. The CBC, where Melissa at a later stage was helped in the PTU, or if it escalates to a more serious scenario, then we will recommend you to take professional counseling, to go to the social workers at school, to psychologists that maybe will try to understand the reasons behind. But in our experience, led by the Holy Spirit, we have achieved so much with kids. Here is Melissa. You had the account of Edilaine. They were helped in the church. What was the turning point?
For me, it was this one specific year. It was in varsity, when I got to varsity. And I remember that year, I was like, God, I'm done with you. This whole church thing, it's not working for me. I was really done. And I promised myself that as soon as, because everything was sorted for me to move into a raise, even though my mom was against it, I was like, you know what? I'm leaving the church. I'm done. And during that time, even though everything was there for me to move and all of that, it never worked out. It was the weirdest thing for me during that time. Like, it never worked out. But then it was during that time where I came to one of the projects, because I hated being home. I came to one of the projects in the YPG. And after that, what is this? Someone paid attention to me. And I'm like, okay. And then slowly but surely, I started committing myself. I'm like, what about I try do this? And there was always people supporting me, and I never understood that. For me, that was, why are you supporting me?
Encouragement was the fuel.
So for me, that was, why are you supporting me? But then an extreme case happened, like at home. It was so bad that the following day we had to leave the house. And that was truly there. I remember that was a turning point for me, because that's where I truly reached out and I actually said, this is what's going on. Because I had never bothered actually telling people, these are my actual thoughts. This is what is actually going on at home. This is how I actually feel. And it took that case happening and the fact that I had already been given the support structure. So I knew, there's a place I could actually go to. There's someone I could actually trust. So I found that in the front. Yeah.
Thanks, God. Now, I would like to share with you God's guidance, not for the kids, for us, adults responsible for them. We are going to read together Deuteronomy 5:29, and it's for us. It is for you, Mom, for you, older sister, for me, Sunday school teacher, YPG counselor, PTU counselor, pastor's wife. We are neighbors. We are women in this society. So what God is talking here is for us. So listen. Oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me and keep all my commands always. For us to be inclined and fear God, to seek for his wisdom to deal with this pandemic at hands, not COVID, this pandemic that is assaulting our children, so that it might go well with them, us, and with their children forever. Here is the promise of God. And God honored Melissa's mother, not knowing how to do it well, but God protected her, and Melissa today is completely recovered. The same God is promising to you and to me. Just before we go, we normally pray for you, but today I want Melissa to pray for someone who is watching the show and needs to receive this prayer, because the someone is living the same torment, the same thoughts, the same lifestyle that she did before. So please close your eyes.
My Lord, we are gathered here not because it's our will or because we know how to overcome this or because we have any experience in it, but because, my Lord, you guided us and you brought us here and we overcame because of you. And my Lord, I'm asking for the sake of those who have no hope, those who are at school right now and they're thinking that, you know what, this is the new generation. People can't relate. My parents don't get it. They don't understand how I feel. My friends are not seeing the true pain and all of that. My Lord, I ask you that may you touch each and every single one of them, even those who are watching, those who have friends. My Father, I also pray for the parents that don't see this, the parents that aren't attentive to their kids, that don't realize what's actually going on. Lord, help them, guide them. It's not that parents are terrible as how a child would think and suspect, but my Lord, you can take control and all works out, my Father. When you come in, every understanding, every misunderstanding, all of it comes to the clear and this person is being helped. So I pray, my Lord, that you may help each and every single one of them out there. Those who are on the verge of giving up, those who think that only suicide is the only way, self-mutilation, Lord, let them know, show them that it is not the way, but you are the way. I pray all of this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Moms, grannies, aunties, God brought this for our attention. So there is a lot of soul searching, but moreover, give attention to your kids. Listen to them. Be there for them. And God has promised He will take care of you. He will take care of your kids. Next week, we're going to be back and we are going to talk about the imposter syndrome. Funny enough, you have no idea of what is it all about. We have gone to the streets. We have asked the same question, and you are going to make sense of it next week. We are going to be back, and until then, God bless you all.
The imposter syndrome. My name is Michelle and this is my story, as seen by the world. And this is my actual story, through my eyes.
They know I'm useless.
Why?
They know I'm
praising
content.
me.
He's gonna
Even
leave
that great.
as good as he thinks I
Get a
am.
grip,
I'm
get a
gonna
grip.
mess up.
Okay.
I just wish I was as great as they thought I was.
This Friday at 3 p.m.